What's happening, nerds? We've all just seen Endgame, but right now we're going to talk about one of the biggest and most major plot holes in Endgame, and we're going to talk about it right now. If you love movies and you love talking about them, make sure you hit that subscribe button and become part of our notification squad by hitting the bell. And if you dig our content, make sure you give the video a like. Endgame sets up a whole lot of things, but one of the biggest things it sets up is time travel. And that is actually leading to one of the biggest plot holes I think they have set up in this movie. Because
it's always a doozy. It's always a doozy.
It always is. But unfortunately, they kind of missed something, I think, that is quite a big thing here. At the end of Endgame, we see Captain America go back with all the stones and put them all back into their right places throughout the timeline.
Well, we don't see it.
We know he's going to go do it.
Happens off screen.
Yeah, and we see prior to that sequence, Bruce Banner is in Doctor Strange's house. He's talking to
Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah, that's right. And he's like, "What's up? I'm going to take this stone. Nothing you can do about it." And she says, "If you take that stone, you're taking it." Yeah, exactly. You fuck us all up, and you fuck up this timeline because you're taking it from this timeline, and then this timeline would no longer have a stone, and that will set up a path, right, of this timeline here not having that stone. So he says, well, that's fine. I'll come back to this time, right where that timeline will start happening, and bring the stone back and put it back in there, and nothing will change. Now, that works. If you put it back and you do that, nothing changes, right? So that works out fine. But the issue is how those stones were actually taken. And that sets up the biggest paradox for this movie. And let's get into it, because the biggest one for me is the Tesseract. The Tesseract is
You're
a
talking
cube,
about
right?
It's a cube in cube form.
Cube form.
To take it from that, they engineer it down into a stone.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So and for it to work in the rest of the movies, for it to appear as it does, as in Avengers 1 and stuff like that, it needs to get back to being a cube.
In the 1970s?
As a cube, right?
Yeah.
And so how do they do that? It has to be broken down to the stone, and then it has to be brought back to the Tesseract. And that's the issue, because Captain America can't recreate the Tesseract, right?
Yeah.
And who in that timeline is going to do it? And that person that does it has to know that Cap is from the future, and again is a paradox in itself, because you can't tell anybody that you're from the future if you're from the future, because you're telling that person, then they know time travel, and then again it's like, as they say,
there's is there a half hour the movie that they just cut out, which is just Cap returning?
Sure, I think
explaining how this all happens.
I don't think it's a part of the movie that they've cut out. I think it's something they just couldn't explain. There's nothing. It's one of those things that they had to go in the writers' room. This kind of has to let flow over the audience and leave it at the back door.
Okay, so let's assume that he was able to somehow. It sounds
remake
very
the Tesseract.
time consuming
It does.
to do this.
It does.
Are we assuming that it happens after he's gone? We're not presuming that within that case.
So he would have just had to have dropped off the Tesseract as it is, as a stone, and that would set off a different timeline for the MCU, because all the different characters, wouldn't be trying to find the Tesseract; they'd be trying to find that stone, and that changes the timeline, and that changes it to be a different timeline, which sets up, as I said, a paradox, a timeline paradox.
We're assuming that he finds someone with the expertise to be able to do this.
Not possible.
Howard Stark is a smart guy.
Yeah, well, no.
Not
not smart enough to be able to do that.
As we've already discussed.
We're talking him possibly have to find either a Celestial, either someone that is probably in space, maybe someone at Asgard that could do it, but he doesn't have the ability at that time to be able to do it. It's not going to happen.
I would not want to do that job. He seriously, are we sure that he didn't just not do what he said he was going to do?
It's possible.
And he really just went back to hang with Peggy. He did none of the things he was going to say.
I'm just going to go back to
And
Pegs.
the gauntlet's still there. Just still out there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's attempted to, but these are these things.
Where else is he? He goes, back to see Red Skull.
Yep.
Yep. He's then got to figure out how to return that from whence it came. So.
I mean, that's it. Again, how do you do that? By doing that, wouldn't you technically get back, Black Widow at that point? Is that how Black Widow comes back for the new Black Widow movie? Is it not actually a prequel? All these things. It's the issue with the biggest, as I said, the biggest plot hole of Endgame is the stones and bringing them back. It doesn't make any sense. The only one that does it really is the Time Stone, because that simply can just be put back
It's achievable.
Yeah. And you're going to have to... They've healed Natalie Portman at this point, right? But they're going to have to put that back in her to be able to...
Now, that's a movie everyone wants to see.
Yeah. So it's hard.
And I feel like it's going to be... I mean, Rocket Raccoon seemed like the right man for that job.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to see Cap have to do that. You know, it's kind of like... Presumably, she'd have to be unconscious.
Yeah, I mean, at that time... Or just before that time, if he goes back just before that time Rocket takes it, she is unconscious, right? So there is that point where he can simply slip her a roofie at this point, right? You know, that's essentially what he's doing.
It's very murky waters.
It's super murky and it's super Dodgeville. But that's the way it kind of has to go down. And that's why I think this is a massive plot hole. And I just don't think it can be actually physically done for Captain America. He's not the right person to be able to do it.
This is something that we need. Like, if Neil deGrasse Tyson can get involved when a random fan brings up a theory about, you know, Ant-Man enlarging within Thanos' rear end.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, can someone can the Russos latch onto this and explain like what's going on?
I mean, Infinity War for me had also a massive plot hole with the fact that Doctor Strange could create portals, but he couldn't create a portal around Thanos' arm to lob it off.
We have talked about this
so many times, and it does my head in. But this again does my head in even more.
The main reason why that one we talk about a lot is because it was kind of like they set it up. They set it up at the start of the movie when the big warthog dude gets his arm cut off and there's a close-up on it. Yeah. It's like, well, that's going to pay off later on.
Yeah,
and it never does.
The thing about it is that they set it up in this one too. If Tilda Swinton didn't come up and say what she said, and we just assumed that he could have brought back the stones in any way, which a form, it would have been fine. But because she said what she said and said, you know, by bringing the stones or taking them away from our time, they wouldn't be in our timeline anymore and would stuff that up. You set up a time paradox which you didn't need to do.
Because he just done a little Indiana Jones and he's just like, sort of flipped them out and it's like, well, no one's going to fucking notice. It was that same color, that's all that matters.
Sure.
Who cares if it looks like a cube or it looks like this or
that?
Is that what he's... No. Is it that simple? It's just, he did a half-assed job. He did a super half-assed job.
Sure, I mean, that's possible. But, I mean, again, you're going to ruin the later films of the MCU, which is... It all has to lead up to this point. Like, and for it to work out, it all has to happen this exact same way. I mean, the time paradox will happen for Captain America. He'll be a man lost in time again, but literally... in a different time that he's never been in before, and you know, a different timeline. So that's what I'm thinking. That's the biggest plot hole. Can you guys figure it out? I don't know. I can't, because there's literally no way for me to work this out.
Can I just say, this guy is losing sleep over this, and we need to help him. Like,
help me, help you. Let me know how this can actually work out, because I cannot figure this out. Captain America is not the man for this role, and I know it's for him just to be able to go back in time and be with Peggy, and that's fine. But if you're creating plot holes for the sake of plot holes, then do it for a reason and fix it up in your universe. And the Russo brothers created a plot hole in their own movies, which they didn't need to do. And they did it, and there has to be a reason for it. And I want to know what it is and why I can't work it out.
We've thrown down the gauntlet to the Russo brothers. I expect to hear from them in the comments. At least one of you. You don't have to be both of them.
Yeah, there's two of you.
Joe, Anthony, whichever has more time.
Yeah, whichever one's taken up the other YouTube comments, come here and talk to us about it and let us know how to fix it. But anyway, I'm Ryan.
I'm Ben.
And that's the biggest plot hole in the MCU right now.
Apparently.
Yeah, and until next time, we'll catch you nerds. We're probably at some cinema, sitting behind you, being weird.
Throwing popcorn.
Yeah, throwing popcorn. Stop watching crap movies. But most of all, stop talking in movies. You bastards.
Frowned upon.